Do you know the real difference between a mature woman who captivates a younger man and one he sees merely as a mother figure? It's not what you think. It's not about age. It's not about looks. It's not about money. It's something far more subtle, something most women get wrong without even realizing it. If you've ever felt a spark with a younger man, only to watch the energy shift the moment he learns your age, if you've ever found yourself in the awkward position of trying to justify your interests or overcompensate for something you can't quite name, this will change everything. Because what I'm about to reveal goes against almost everything you've been told about relationships with a significant age gap. After observing hundreds of cases and analyzing what truly makes these connections thrive, I discovered something startling. The women who succeed in building deep, lasting relationships with younger men do the exact opposite of what most advice recommends. And once you understand this, it becomes crystal clear why some relationships bloom, while others turn into awkward memories you rather forget. The truth? There is a very specific behavioral pattern that repels younger men. And no, the issue isn't age. It's the invisible messages. Many women unconsciously send messages that whisper insecurity, a need for approval, or a desperate desire to prove something. But before you assume this is just another shallow tip on how to look younger or act the part, let me tell you what I've learned from women who truly thrive in these kinds of relationships. They don't try to compete with youth. They offer something else entirely, something a younger woman simply can't give. Picture this. You're a 4 or 5-year-old woman, divorced, with grown children, and for the first time in years, you finally have time for yourself. At a social gathering, you meet a 2-year-old man. There's instant chemistry. But as soon as the conversation turns personal, something shifts. He's still polite, but the spark fades. What happened? In most cases, it's not the age gap that kills the chemistry. It's how the woman responds once she becomes aware of it. She might start making self-deprecating jokes about her age. Or suddenly she becomes overly protective, maternal, or eager to impress, rattling off her accomplishments and stability. And here's the kicker. The very first thing a woman unconsciously does wrong when she likes a younger man, she becomes his caretaker. She starts treating him like a son, offering unsolicited advice, protecting him from problems he's perfectly capable of handling, being overly helpful, worrying about things that don't matter to him at all. But here's what no one tells you. The moment you step into that role, you awaken his instinct to be a son, not a lover. A younger man who's genuinely drawn to a mature woman isn't looking for a second mother. He already has one. He's looking for an equal, someone he can admire, someone he can share depth, passion, and connection with, not someone who knows better and manages every aspect of the dynamic. Let me tell you the story of Maria. She's 50 years old, divorced after 25 years of marriage. 2 years into rediscovering herself, she meets David, a charming 5-year-old man. The chemistry is undeniable. But slowly, without noticing, Maria begins sabotaging the connection. Whenever David shares a challenge at work, she slips into advice mode. When he makes a spontaneous decision, she immediately explains why he should think twice. Every time he expresses doubt or concern, she responds with a perfect answer drawn from years of life experience. What Maria didn't realize, David wasn't looking for a coach. He was looking for a partner. And perhaps even more damaging than her advice was the way she tried to control the relationship from the start. Because she assumed her age and experience gave her the right to predict how everything should go, what he should want, how he should act, where the relationship should lead. But here's the truth. That mindset kills the 2 essential ingredients of attraction: spontaneity and mystery. You see, a younger man is often drawn to energy, excitement, and the thrill of discovering something new. But if everything is already mapped out, if she's already decided who he is, what he needs, and where things are going, then where's the space for him to grow, to lead, to feel like the main character in your story together? Imagine, every time he makes a suggestion, you already know how it ends. Where's the romance in that? If you're truly ready to connect across age without falling to the mother role, the answer isn't to act younger or to prove yourself. It's to meet him as an equal, to share your world without trying to control his, to hold your ground without stepping into his, to be a woman, not a mentor, not a guide, not a caretaker, just a woman. And that is what no younger woman can replicate. Every time he wants to try something new, you already have the answer. Every time he wants to take a risk, you've already calculated the consequences. How do you think that makes him feel? Probably like he's living in a golden cage, comfortable, yes, but without the freedom to grow. And no man, regardless of age, wants to feel caged. Now here's something fascinating. Many mature women unknowingly sabotage their chances because they feel uncomfortable about their age. When a younger man asks how old they are, they dodge the question, laugh nervously, change the subject, or make self-deprecating remarks. But do you know what message that sends? That age is a problem. That is something to hide or be ashamed of. In contrast, a woman who answers naturally and confidently, who doesn't apologize for her years, who speaks of her experience with grace and ease, that woman instantly becomes more desirable because she radiates something rare and irresistible, comfort in her own skin. And that comfort is magnetic. I remember a story one of my clients shared with me. She was on a date with a younger man. At some point, he asked her how old she was. She smiled and said, "I'm 43, and every one of those years has taught me something valuable." No excuses, no nervous laughter, no deflection, just calm confidence. And what fascinated him wasn't her age, it was the way she owned it. Now let me touch on another common mistake, the obsession with looking younger. Don't get me wrong, it's wonderful to take care of yourself, to invest in your appearance, to stay healthy and radiant. But the problem begins when that self-care stems from desperation, from the belief that you must compete with 20-year-olds on their turf to be worthy of love. Here's the truth. When a younger man senses that you're trying to be something you're not, he loses interest instantly. Because what draws him to a mature woman is not her ability to mimic youth. It's the qualities that only come with age. Confidence, presence, depth, authenticity. A younger man who's truly seeking a relationship with a mature woman isn't looking for a rejuvenated version of someone his age. If he wanted that, he'd date someone his age. What he's looking for is something he can't find in his peers, something only you can offer. Let me tell you about Carmen, a 8-year-old woman who spent thousands on cosmetic treatments trying to turn back time. She got Botox, fillers, luxury facials. She bought trendy clothes designed for women half her age. When she met Andres, a 3-4-year-old man, she believed her youthful appearance would win him over. But something unexpected happened. Andres was polite but distant. Later, Carmen realized what had gone wrong. In her attempt to look younger, she had lost her essence, her warmth, her personality, her natural charm buried under layers of effort and pretense. Here's something else many women don't realize. Trying to impress him with your success, your career, your properties, your accomplishments can actually backfire. Of course, it's admirable that you're independent, that you've built a fulfilling life. But if that becomes the center of how you present yourself, if every conversation becomes a resume recap or a list of achievements, you may be earning his respect, but not necessarily his desire. Because attraction doesn't grow from facts. It grows from emotional connection, from the feeling that life becomes more alive, more playful, more unpredictable in your presence. Imagine how he feels if every conversation starts to sound like a job interview. Or if you constantly highlight your financial stability, what message does that send? That your value lies in what you have, not in who you are. And now for one of the most subtle yet destructive mistakes of all, excessive availability. Replying to every message within seconds. Canceling your plans to meet him. Always being free when he is. Showering him with compliments. Allowing your world to revolve around his attention. It may look like love. It may even feel like love. But what he perceives is lack. And lack, regardless of age, is never attractive. The woman who holds her own rhythm, who has her own passions, who chooses to be available rather than needs to be, that woman inspires both admiration and desire. Imagine how it feels when every time he texts you, you respond instantly. There's no space, no anticipation, no mystery. Desire doesn't thrive in a vacuum. It needs air, distance, polarity. It needs a woman who lives fully, whether or not he's watching. Every time he suggests something, you agree without thinking. Every time he shares an idea, you turn it into praise. How do you think he's going to feel? Probably overwhelmed. And if we're being honest, a little bored. Where's the challenge? Where's the mystery? Where's the sense that he's gradually winning over someone truly special? But there's something even more subtle I want you to understand. Many mature women fall into the trap of excessive seriousness. They believe that in order to be respected, they must always appear rational, composed, and in control. And in doing so, they suppress one of their most magnetic traits, their sensual, playful side. Do you know what a younger man is truly seeking in a mature woman? He's not looking for more seriousness and responsibility. He already gets plenty of that from his career, his family, and the demands of life. He's looking for someone who can laugh, who can be spontaneous, who radiates vibrant energy but with the calm confidence that only comes with experience. It's this rare fusion of vitality and maturity that is utterly irresistible. Not youth, but wisdom wrapped in a vibrant spirit. Not immaturity masked as fun, but playfulness grounded in self-awareness. Let me tell you about Patricia. She was 51, a successful woman who, after her divorce, had cultivated a persona of unwavering seriousness. She believed that in order to command respect both professionally and as a single mother, she needed to project total control at all times. Then she met Roberto, a charming 36-year-old man. From the beginning, Patricia carried that same stoic energy into their dates. The conversations were intelligent, the atmosphere was polite, but something was missing: warmth, playfulness, spark. Roberto later said it felt less like a romantic evening and more like a business meeting. There was no laughter, no surprise, no moment that made him feel truly alive in her presence. And here's another crucial pitfall: the game of forced indifference. Some women believe they must appear aloof, that showing genuine interest make them seem needy. So they act as if they don't care. They maintain emotional distance. They pretend his presence doesn't really matter. But this approach always backfires because you can't fake what you don't feel. And what he senses isn't mystery or independence. What he sees is coldness, or worse, arrogance. True maturity doesn't need games. It's the ability to show real interest without neediness, to express emotions without manipulation, to be open without losing yourself. When a mature woman pretends not to care, she denies one of her greatest gifts, her ability to connect on a level most younger women haven't yet reached. Younger men, often surrounded by superficial interactions, find genuine emotional depth not only refreshing, but deeply attractive. Now let's get to the root of all these mistakes. Because once you understand this, everything else begins to make sense. Most mature women walk into these situations with a quiet belief that their age is a disadvantage, something they must compensate for. And this belief drives them to act out of character. They become anxious to prove their worth. They try to control out of fear. Or they become overly submissive, simply grateful for the attention. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your age is not a disadvantage. It's a difference. And differences, when embraced rather than hidden, can become the most powerful source of attraction. A younger man who is truly drawn to a mature woman isn't looking for her to make up for anything. He's seeking exactly what she is: a woman with presence, a woman with perspective, a woman with emotional depth he has yet to encounter in his peers. So ask yourself, What can a mature woman offer that a woman his own age often cannot? Perspective, the kind that only life experience can provide. Emotional stability, a calmness that comes from having already faced life's storms. Freedom, the freedom to be herself without needing validation. Depth, the richness that comes from having lived, lost, learned, and grown. A woman who has weathered life, who has faced challenges and emerged wiser, carries an aura that no amount of youth can replicate. It's not about the years on the calendar. It's about how consciously those years have been lived. And here's the secret of women who truly succeed in these dynamics. They don't try to seduce. They simply allow themselves to be fully seen. Because what's most attractive isn't perfection, it's presence. Not trying to be someone else, but being so fully yourself that there's no one else like you. They don't fight their nature, they celebrate it. They don't apologize for their experience, they use it as a strength. When a woman stops trying to impress and simply allows herself to be authentic, when she no longer competes with youth but offers something entirely different, when she fully accepts herself and acts from that place of self-acceptance, that's when she becomes truly irresistible. Let me tell you about Elena, a 6-year-old woman who had gone through a difficult divorce and raised 2 children on her own. When she met Marcos, a 3-year-old man, she didn't try to hide her past. She didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. She simply shared her life as it was. She spoke openly of long, sleepless nights raising her children, of the resilience she had to cultivate, of how she rebuilt her life piece by piece after everything she knew fell apart. But she wasn't telling her story to gain sympathy. It wasn't a plea for validation. It was simply her truth offered with grace, without embellishment. And Marcos was captivated not by the drama, but by the quiet strength beneath it, by the wisdom in her words, by the way she wore her story not as a burden, but as a badge of growth. Because a younger man who's genuinely drawn to a mature woman isn't seeking an improved version of what he already knows. He's seeking something entirely new. He's drawn to a woman who possesses real presence, who doesn't need external validation to feel worthy, who can stand fully in her own energy, unapologetically. Think of it this way. The moment you feel the need to prove your value, you begin to lose your magnetism. True attraction doesn't come from effort. It comes from presence. It arises when someone sees your worth without you having to constantly point it out. And here's something beautiful to remember. A woman who respects herself, who takes care of herself out of self-love, not desperation, who shows herself without fear because she knows who she is. That woman's magnetic regardless of age, because she radiates something that cannot be faked: authenticity. In a world where everyone is trying to be what they think others want them to be, authenticity is the rarest quality of all. When someone encounters a person who simply is, not performing, not pretending, not proving, it creates an instant, undeniable connection. Imagine you're at a gathering and you meet someone who isn't trying to impress, who isn't putting on a show, who isn't striving to be more or less than they are. They're just being. How does that person make you feel? Probably relaxed, comfortable, genuinely curious, drawn in not by effort, but by ease. Now here's the great irony. The women who are most successful with younger men are the ones who try the least. They're too busy living rich, full lives to chase validation. They aren't trying to fill a void, they're sharing from a place of wholeness. They're not seeking to be chosen, they're already complete. And that energy, that grounded, full-hearted presence, is felt immediately. When a mature woman has made peace with her past, is alive in her present, and is optimistic about her future, that confidence becomes contagious. Young men, often still finding their way, are naturally drawn to that sense of clarity and calm. But let's be clear. This doesn't mean you need to become a mentor or a spiritual guide. It means your very presence is inspiring, not because you're trying to inspire, but because you're living an inspired life. When you understand that your age is a trait, not a flaw, when you stop seeing your experiences as baggage and start recognizing them as gifts, when you realize you don't have to compete because you have something entirely unique to offer, that's when everything changes. Because the truth is, you have something a 20-year-old woman simply doesn't. Perspective. You have clarity about what you want and what you will no longer tolerate. You have emotional stability earned by weathering life's storms. You have a certain freedom, the kind that comes from no longer needing to prove anything to anyone. Think of it like this. A young woman may be beautiful, fun, intelligent, but can she offer the depth of someone who has truly lived? Can she provide the steadiness of someone who's already survived heartbreak and come out stronger? Can she give the freedom of someone who is no longer trying to find herself because she already knows who she is? And when you fully embrace that, it becomes incredibly seductive. The younger man who feels drawn to you isn't looking for a mother. He's not looking for a mentor. He's certainly not looking for a teenager in disguise. He's looking for a woman with presence, a woman who stands in her truth, a woman who doesn't need external validation to know she's desirable. He's seeking someone who can show him new dimensions of life, not from a place of superiority, but from the richness of shared experience, someone who can take him into emotional territories he's never explored. Not because she's older, but because she has lived more deeply. Let me tell you about Adriana. She was 52. She had traveled the world, built a successful career, raised her children, and even overcome a life-threatening illness. When she met Julian, a 5-year-old man, she didn't list her achievements to impress him. She didn't try to prove her worth. She simply showed up as herself, a woman who had lived and who carried that life within her, quietly and confidently. Julian wasn't captivated by the details of Adriana's story. He was captivated by the way she inhabited her life. There was a calmness in her presence, a kind of quiet certainty that didn't stem from pride or ego, but from self-acceptance. When she spoke, he felt he was in the company of someone who truly knew herself. And this is the heart of the matter. It's not about age, it's about energy. It's not about years, it's about presence. It's not about how much you've experienced, it's about how much of that experience you've integrated. When a woman stops fighting who she is and begins to celebrate it, when she realizes that her worth doesn't need explanation or justification, that's when she becomes truly unforgettable. The woman others admire. The woman people want to be around, not because she's trying, but because she's real. Because at the end of the day, what truly draws people in is not perfection, it's authenticity. Not youth, but vitality. Not just experience, but spirit. The freshness of someone who's still curious about life, combined with the depth of someone who's already lived it. And that, my dear, is something only you can offer. You don't need to apologize for it. You don't need to compensate for it. You certainly don't need to hide it. You need to celebrate it. Embrace it. Let it be the foundation of your quiet, undeniable magnetism. Because when a mature woman finally understands this, when she stops seeing her age as an obstacle and starts seeing it as her superpower, when she realizes that what she once believed were flaws are in fact her greatest gift, that's when everything begins to shift. Not just in her relationships, but in her whole life,